My name is Rebecca. I am the Director of Programs at the Elizabeth A. Sackler Foundation. And I work with Elizabeth Sackler to provide additional support for the Center for Feminist Art here at the Brooklyn Museum. And I'm absolutely thrilled today to welcome Erica Hinton and Nita Quintero, their families, and Sande Zeig, the producer of the film that we're all about to watch, and Susan Lazarus. And I'm really excited to be able to see Apache here in the Brooklyn Museum. I know we've wanted to have it screened since last spring, or maybe, yeah. So it's a wonderful treat to have everyone here for a conversation and to see the film. The Elizabeth A. Sackler Center for Feminist Art opened in 2007, and it's an exhibition and educational facility dedicated to the past, present, and future of feminist art. As the permanent home of the iconic work The Dinner Party by Rita Chicago, the center strives to raise awareness of feminism's cultural contributions, to educate new generations about the meaning of feminist art, to maintain a dynamic learning facility, and to present feminism in an approachable and relevant way. The Feminist Gallery, which currently is featuring the show Eva Hess of Spectre's 1960, is only one piece of the center's program. At its core, it's a space for open and free discussion, discourse, and the exchange of ideas. Elizabeth Sackler unfortunately can't be here today because of an immediate health issue, but I know that she considers it a pleasure and a privilege to have these remarkable and courageous women fly in from the Southwest in order to tell their stories at the Sackler Center through today's film. So I'm going to bring up Susan Lazarus, one of the producers of the film, to introduce the film and the speakers to follow. Thank you.
Well, it's interesting that it was 2007 when this institution was formed, but that's when Sande started making this film. She'll tell you the story of how she came upon the unit of firefighters and was totally inspired by them to tell their story. We have also here Aunt Dolly, who you'll see in the film, and Butch Gregg, who's a firefighter who was also working side by side with his wife, Erica Hinton. So afterwards, there'll be a Q&A, so if you have any questions, please stick around. And thanks for coming, and enjoy. Apache.
Some encouraging reports tonight from the western wildfire zone. Firefighters say they are gaining ground on the giant Sholo fire in Arizona, thanks in part to a remarkable team of firefighters.
A phone call in the middle of the night is routine for 51-year-old Cheryl Bones. Since 1976, Bones has been crew boss for Apache No. 8, and that means travel, often for weeks at a time. 21 days without a break, 90 hours a week on the line. They have a reputation for killing the toughest of fire. By reservation standards, where jobs are scarce, the pay is good.
We went out that we left our families behind. I had 3 kids that I left behind, 5, 2, and 1 years old when I started. That was pretty tough.
Chip Reed, NBC News, Sholo, Arizona.
You never knew what you were going to face. You were with a bunch of women that could handle anything.
My people respect me because I'm putting my life on the line to protect what is ours, the beauty of the reservation.
When they first started, they were probably the only all-women's crew, firefighting crew that was out there. This all-male firefighting camp would be becoming organized, the camp setting up. Then all of a sudden, there's these ladies that come into camp and everybody's wondering exactly what's going on here. All heads would turn.
Susan was a producer of the documentary, a feature, Image Before My Eyes, funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities. As a post-production supervisor, she worked on films ranging from Mississippi Masala, Bob Roberts, The Boxer, to The Door on the Floor Prime and Inside Man. Her associate producer credits include Phyllis and Harold and Before You Go. Susan Lazarus more recently supervised post-production on Jim Jarmusch's The Limits of Control and Sean Durkin's film Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. She is an active member of the New York Women in Film and Television, has served on the board as vice president in charge of programming, and is on the steering committee of the Women's Film Preservation Fund. So, welcome you up to introduce our other wonderful panelists.
We have Sande Zeig, the director and producer, who's also a film distributor. Her short film, Central Park, premiered at Sundance in 1994. She went on to direct a feature called The Girl, which is based on a short story by French writer Monique Wittig that was at the Toronto and Berlin Film Festivals in 2001. She did a documentary called Soul Masters in 2008, and currently is developing a documentary on Monique Wittig. Come on up, Sandy. And, we have in the audience, well, let's start with Erica Hinton. Erica started with Helitak, and come on up, and you've heard about her throughout the film. So please sit here. Thank you, Erica. I want to introduce Butch Gregg. Is he here? He took the children to bed. He'll be back later. But and some of the children who were here were also featured in the film. And Nita Quintero. She's been working for 27 years. How many? About 17. 17 years, I'm sorry. With Apache 8, and is now a crew boss, and was out on the Wallow Fire this year. You might have seen some of the Helitak on the news this summer when that big fire was going on, and you saw them dropping the buckets of water. That's what they were doing. So Sandy will ask if anyone's got any questions.
So thank you all for being here. Erica and Nita and their families came from the White Mountain Apache Reservation here. So as you saw on the map, the reservation is in Arizona. And so we're very happy to have them come to New York City. This is Nita's first time in New York City. And Erica was here when the film screened at the Native American Film Festival at the Smithsonian. So I'm happy to tell you some more about the movie, but perhaps there are some questions that you'd like to ask first, and we can all participate with any questions you might have. Yes.
First, congratulations on making such a personal film out of this subject. I just want to know, as a filmmaker, did you need a fixer, or did you go in by yourself? I mean, in terms of getting in deep to the culture and inside this family.
Yeah, thank you. As a matter of fact, Michael Hughes is a filmmaker, and I've distributed 2 of his films with my personal company. I'm very happy that you came. I met some women firefighters when I was in the Phoenix airport, and I walked through a group of women, and they were all in those yellow jackets that you see in the film. And the energy around them, there were many, many women, and they were in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 20s. And I just walked by them and I said, "Who are you guys?" And they said, "We're firefighters from Fort Apache." And the words just kind of spilled out of my mouth. "I want to make a movie about you." So I got the telephone number of a crew boss, and I called during the fire season to find out if I could go up and to see if I could make a movie. And so they told me to talk to Cheryl Bones, because Cheryl had been interviewed by the press, I think a number of times. And so I called Cheryl, and I said I'd like to come up and see if I could do a little scouting. So she dropped the phone down, she spoke to a supervisor, and she said, "You can come up." I said, right away? And she said, "Yeah, you can come up right away." So I grabbed two friends of mine from Tucson, and they came up, and we did a little trailer. And this little trailer we cut, and we were introduced to Cheryl's sister, who's Pearl Harvey, who you see in the movie. And Pearl was actually the person that opened up all the doors in the reservation for us. She told me how to operate. And I did make several mistakes. So the first mistake was that little trailer that I made. I had a meeting with the chairman, Ron Lupi, and who you see in the film. And so it was the moment when the iPhone came out. And so I gave him my iPhone, and he was watching this little trailer that we made, and he was smiling and looking at it. And finally, when the movie was over, he said, "Where did you make this?" And I said, "Here." And he said, "Who gave you permission?" I thought, oh no, I never asked for permission to film on the reservation. So he said, "This is a sovereign nation, and if you go to England, you have to follow the rules of England. If you're on the reservation, you have to follow the rules here." And so he said, 10 years house arrest. I was like, and I kept spinning and talking, and then he said, "Okay, 5 years." And then he just left, and he said, "No, you have to do this correctly." So I had to go to the tribal council, and then after that, Pearl introduced me to the cultural council, and I was very, very supported, actually. So that was the beginning of the learning process. So someone have a question for? Sure. Thank you for coming. For Nita or Erica?
Well, I wanted to ask about what happened this summer. I mean, so Nita, where did you go to work on these summer wildfires that were so fierce?
My first fire was at the, it's not on the reservation, but it was like one of the history fire again. It's called the wildfire, which was about probably another 4,000 or 5,000 plus acres that was burned. But it came close to the reservation, but we were on our side of the reservation, but the other side it pretty much burned. So I've been to almost like probably 5, 6 fires this past summer.
And I wanted to mention that some of the footage is shot with a little camera. It's called a helmet cam. And Nita was the first person that I gave the helmet cam to. And Erica and Nita were the first people I gave the helmet cam to. So some of those shots, they're actually, when I couldn't be with them, they took a helmet cam on and they shot the fire scenes. So actually they're cinematographers in the film as well as being featured firefighters. And they did an amazing job, really.
How are you dealing with the situation with the drugs? Because it seems like that's causing a lot of family tension. Is there things within your culture that you're doing about it? Is there institutions that are set up for some of the young people to get help? How are you dealing with that in the communities?
And Erica, you want to talk?
I'm not really sure. I think there is like help out there, but I'm not really sure because like in the summertime I'm just like always working. You know, it's like I don't even have a life. I just work all the time. And then when I do get laid off, I just spend time with my family. And I know there is a lot of things going on the reservation, but I know there is help, but it's like really up to the kids, you know, if they want that help. And so I know it is bad, but I don't really like try to deal with that stuff. I just kind of hear about it. So that's all I can say.
It may not be as widespread as people think.
Yeah, but you know, it is there, and it's really bad. And you know, there's a lot of young kids. It seems like there's like a lot of alcohol too, because you know, you go to the store and there's like all these young kids that are just wasted and you know, trying to ask for money, and it is really sad.
Whether that has to do with employment
Yeah.
opportunities or lack thereof.
Yeah, but like I said, I'm just like always working, and if I'm not working, I'm with my family, because the time I lose for them in the summer, then I try to spend as much time as I can when I'm not working.
Okay, thank you. Jess?
I guess this is a silly question, but I'm just wondering how long a fire typically burns. And you said you worked on six, you said you worked on 6 fires this past summer. So I was just wondering, like, how long they usually burn for and how big they get, or is it usually one big one?
Yeah, once we get called out for an assignment to one of these fires, and then it's like, usually takes like about 2 weeks to stay at that fire, to control that fire. And if it's a real huge fire, you can like stay 2 weeks, or you can stay another week, which is like 21 days. But especially like a huge fire like this, it would take like forever to get it out.
Yeah, it could take like a month, maybe like even 2 months. Depends like the weather, you know, if it's really dry, and then what's out there to burn. If there's a lot of timber, then you could just take that out. And then once the grass comes, that's when usually you can kind of get a hang of the fire. But it depends what's ahead of you. So it could be like weeks, it could be 2 weeks, it could be, it just, you can't say.
But you have a shift that has, because of the smoke inhalation, do they limit the shift that you can be out in the fire?
It depends on the fire behavior. If it's like really rapid, then there's really nothing you can do. You can put water on there, but it's just like spitting on it.
So then you saw like how the helicopter dropped the water, but for those of you on foot, how do you fight fire physically?
We have crews on the fire there, and then like for Erica, since she's on the habitat crew, she has like about maybe 2 or 3 people out there working with her. So you have like your handheld radio, and then there's some kind of flagging that they use out there. And so for her part, or where she works, it's usually like a small fire. It's usually like a 2 to 5 acre fires. So that one she can, and her squad, they can just take it out within like a day or so.
But do you guys physically throw water on it, or?
Like you've seen on the show that we used, the tools that we use out there that they gave us. So then for her part, she can use the water, she called a helicopter. So there's 2 ways.
Yeah, and then like, once you get out there, you just build line like all day, and it's like hard. And then
explain what build line is so that they know.
Like the tools you've seen, you could build line like a trail size, or it could be like this size of the room you build. And
It's like a big.
Yeah, it just basically you just clear everything out. And in front of you, you have the tools, you have the saws, and it depends on the line. Like it could be this small, it could be this, and then like the size of the room. And when I went with the hot shots, that was hard. That was really hard because of like the water I have to carry, and then the food, and you have to be like self-sufficient for 24 hours. And it's just hot, and it's dusty, and because when we got out there, we worked on the station fire. I don't know if you guys heard about that in California. Well, it was like one of the biggest fires, and they were already out there, and we caught up with them like a week later. And that whole time, they didn't really do anything. They just kind of stood by because of the fire behavior. So once we got there, the first day we were out on line, and we built line, I think it was like a dozer size. And it was hard because you work all day. And I remember thinking the first day I got there, I was like, what am I doing here? I should have just stayed home, because you know, we're trying to get shade, and you just have to build your own shade. You're sitting there, you're just dirty, you're sweaty, and you're just working hard. And then the hiking too, it's really hard because it's like up and down and it's real steep. And with the hot shots, you know, it's just a bunch of guys and me and another girl. And they don't stop. You know, once you start, you just keep going until you get to the area where you need to be. And I'm proud to say that, you know, I kept up with them. And there was a couple of guys that stopped, but, you know, we just kept going, and we get on the line like at 8 o'clock, and we work till nighttime. And then we have to hike out, and it's like 3 miles actually, 7 miles to get back to the crew cab. And, you know, there's days where you don't shower, you know, like 5, 7 days, you know, you're out there, you get dropped off at the helicopter, and there's like no service, no nothing, you know, you have what you have to eat. There's days where we just go with MREs, you know, just that's the only thing we have. But it was really steep when I went with them. The areas we worked at, you know, it was just like steep. So when you would sit down, you would kind of have to dig like a trench, just, you know, in order to sit. And we're like hiking up, we're hiking down. And it was really hard, but I'm glad to say that I did it, and it is, you know, it's a hard job. You know, I like doing it.
So building line means you just cut the trees in the direction that the fire is going so that it won't continue to spread?
Isn't it like a big trench? Like
Yeah.
A line is like a big hole, but it's all a long way so that the fire can't jump over it.
Yeah,
so there's nothing on it.
It basically looks like a trail, you know, like a walking trail. But sometimes, like I said, it depends. Like it could be really big. You could be like 1 mile, 2 miles away from the fire. And so, you know, you have to clear that out, or sometimes they use a dozer. So like once the fire gets there, you know, it's out. But you also have like the helicopters dropping. So, you know, it's always about safety too, because you have a lot of people with you.
When we had these shots in the film of the helicopter, your helicopter shots, and you saw that big, it's called a bambino, is that right? Mm-hmm. It's a bambino, it's like a big basket that drops into the water. We actually put one of those little handy cams on a helicopter when we were in Omak, and so you got this shot from the helicopter of the bucket dropping into the water and coming up and moving over the land. It's one of my favorite shots that we got because it would be impossible to actually get that shot any other way. So, we also went, when we went out to Omak, that was the first time that we actually followed the firefighters. There was a fire call, and as a matter of fact, there were several fires, and they didn't know where they were going. They knew that they were going west. So I said, please give me a call, let me know when you find out if you're going to California or Washington. So we just waited until they called, and then we actually flew while they were driving. Nita and Erica were driving there, and so we met them in Omak where there was a fire, and it was actually, you know, not so easy to get permission to go out on a fire. But most of the people who were actually in charge of the guests, say the press or other people coming out to the fire, were women. And so when we told them about the film, they were particularly helpful in letting us get out there to follow them. We had news crews that were very interested in following the Apache 8 crew members in the Wallow fire, which just happened recently, but they couldn't get out to find them. They were so deep into the fire that the crews that were interested in following them, NBC, couldn't actually reach them because they are really, really far out into the fire zone. Any other questions?
I wanted to introduce Aunt Dolly.
Aunt
Would you
Dolly's
stand
here,
up
yeah.
and say hello to everybody?
I'd
like to know how you convinced Nita to come to Washington. How did you?
Oh, yeah.
Here, come sit
here. First time with Nita.
We have a, here, come sit here.
I was on, and when she was.
Here, come sit in the chair with the microphone.
Okay, like I was saying, that was the first trip I went with Nita to Washington, D.C. about coming out dance. So when she's talking about, I didn't know I was going to go. I was still working. I've been like an LPN nurse. I've been working for about 40 years in the hospital. And I retired from there now, so I can do what I want. But then there was a great trip that I had. There's Bill Hess, that's my son-in-law, married to my niece. And he did a great job for us for traveling. We went to all the things that you see in D.C. This is the second time I'm in it, so I was telling my niece, Nita, where is the third one you're going to take me? But I'm so happy to be with her anytime, because I lost my sister, her mom, as a young mom, and I'm always thinking about her, and when she's away on the fire, I kind of get scared, but then I just pray about it, and I told Nita, just pray as long as you're working on that fire line, don't forget about the Lord. Think about Him, He'll help you. So I'm so happy to be with her on the second trip, so I was asked her, where is our third trip now? Where are we going to go? So I'm happy.
When I started making the film, I didn't have any idea of who the people in the film were going to be. I just knew that there was this all-women crew, and so at the time I thought it would be a movie about Apache 8 crew. But when I met Nita and Erica and Katie and Cheryl and became familiar with their personal stories, we interviewed about 30 people, maybe more, 30 firefighters, and their stories were the ones that came to the surface. And the fact that Nita's sunrise ceremony was in National Geographic was a total surprise. And the fact that Erica, within the timing of the film, became the first woman Apache hotshot was also just an incredible success story. And that Nita became the crew boss after training for years to become a crew boss. And the fact that Cheryl has a statue to herself in her image in Boise, Idaho. So none of these things did I know. It's not as though I said, oh, I heard a great story about a great woman that I want to feature. So I feel that the film was actually was blessed. We did a ceremony with a medicine woman before the beginning of the film, and the doors were really open because it is not so evident to be an outsider and to come to a place and to be welcomed and to be for people to open their heart, which they have done, and giving their total support to the film. And so I just want to say again how grateful I am to you both and to Aunt Ollie for being in the film, and to Nita for all of their families and their stories, and all of the reservation that was very supportive. There was a moment when the chairman had never seen the film, so we delivered the film by hand to the chairman, and so he took the film and he just went in the house, and then a couple of days later called the person who had delivered the film and said, I really like it. And I really can hardly tell you what a relief it was to me that the chairman supported the film.
How did they balance? I've heard you should keep the Lord with you. I've heard about medicine men and medicine women. how do you keep a balance between, let's say, your own traditional ways and learning about and Christianity? And how does that work within the culture? Does that, you pass it down to your kids like that? Does it ever become complicated?
Yeah, while we're back home on the reservation, there's like a Christian way and a traditional way. So usually a lot of kids, they're more into the traditional way now. So when they go to church, they know the Lord and pray to the God and stuff. But once they get into their traditional way, they really want to learn more in the traditional way because there's a lot of singing. They do a lot of sacred stuff when they do the sunrise dances. So mostly like the kids now, they're more to tradition. So they usually put the church stuff on the side.
I know there is some people out there that some of the churches, call them holy rollers. They say that's bad, like our tradition, but I know that it's not because we pray to one God and we know that there's only one. But there's some people, they say, well, no, you can't do that, but that's our tradition, and I'm sure they were raised in that way because my mom, she's really traditional. When I was young, I had a sunrise dance too, like Nita, and I want that for my daughter. And we should be proud of where we came from. And I know when people talk against it, I think like there, like I said, there is only one God, and I don't know why they want to try to push that away. And that's who we are. That's our tradition, and we shouldn't let that go. And I'm proud to say that I'm White Mountain Apache.
Did Dolly have a comment on that?
What I know. This thing about traditional dancing, it's coming from a long way, way back. Even myself, my mom taught me what to do. She had planned to make a dance for me, and I didn't know what was going on. That's when a girl has the first period. That's the time it would start, and then the way they believe is, in the old days, the way they believe if you have a dance, it's supposed to make you a strong woman, live a long life. That's the real main thing. Do what you have to do for a family as a mom. If you have a family, start having children, you gotta stand for them and work. And when the man has to go to work, that's the way it was, way back. But things have changed in the years that I noticed myself. A lot of things have changed. A very traditional dance would be, it's a sacred thing for us Apache people. And I believed that myself because I had mine, and what my mom told me, I think she was doing the right thing and taught me the right thing, but that's what I did for myself. And I'm still living here, and I'm very proud of it. I do have a family. I have girls, but I never had a dance for them because my girls, they are not full-blooded Apache. They're half Hopi. Their dad was a Hopi, but I lost him, so I'm kind of alone. Bringing up my own children, but they're all on their own now. My children are all on their own, and they kind of left me at the house by myself, but I do okay. So I'm very proud of what my mom taught me about this traditional dance. I think I'm a strong woman myself, I would say.
Yeah, good question. Was there a question back, or was it? Not a question. Oh, okay. Nita, anything else you'd like to say?
Yeah, I'm very honored to be here, and I really like this film myself too, even though there was like, people were talking back home about it, but you know, I'm glad to be here, glad here. I'm honored for Sandy and Susan, and I was so surprised when I saw Susan out there, and it was like, when I first met her and I asked her where she was from, she goes, New York. And I said, wow, what are you doing out here in Arizona? You better watch out for these wild Apaches out here. And she goes, well, since you're with me, nothing's going to happen with you, so I'll take care of you. She goes, okay. And so that's how I met Susan. She's a good friend of mine also. And I'm glad to be out here and honor myself.
I guess the same for me, you know, I'm honored to be here and to be a part of the Apache 8. And I'm glad to have met Sandy and Susan, sorry. But, you know, that I hope you guys enjoyed it, and you know that there is ladies out there that can do a man's job. But I am honored to be here too.
I remember meeting, and when I first met Erica, Erica was on the Apache 8 crew for 14 days before it went co-ed, and I was like, 14 days, is that enough? Yes. That's enough. So, if there are no other questions, just thank you so much for coming. Really wonderful to be here, and I thank Elizabeth Sackler and for her support of the film, and we're just very, very honored to be a part of it and to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I got one thing for Jess, though. I really want to thank you, Jess, for this place here.
Thanks to Jess and Rebecca.
I just wanted to thank you all so much for coming and flying out here. It really meant a lot. It was wonderful. It was wonderful to hear your stories, to see the film, and if people are interested, is there a way for them to get the film?
Yeah, the film is being distributed by Native American Public Telecommunications, and it's also being distributed by Women Make Movies.